What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto was banished and returned with Divine Eyes Tsunade bashing? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. The pain of knowing that the people you trusted the most, the ones who you believed would always have your back, the ones who you could be honest with and cry to, betrayed you. That's the situation a certain blonde spiky-haired individual with usually bright and trusting cerulean blue eyes now slightly slitted from his stormy emotions. Ba-chan, there must have been a mistake, I didn't do it, you have to believe me. Naruto announced, trying to plead his case to Tsunade, the Godem Hokage, who stood behind her desk with an emotionless visage. There has been no mistake, you are being charged with the attempted murder of one Sakura Haruno and endangerment to a fellow shinobi of Konohagakure. 1. Tsunade announced with a monotone voice, showing no evidence of how she truly felt about this. You will be put before the council and there your punishment will be judged by the severity of your crime. Tsunade then signaled for the Anbu to detain him using special chakra sealing seals to make it easier. Ba-chan, you have to believe me, I would never try to murder a fellow shinobi, especially Sakura-chan. You have to believe me, Ba. Naruto was interrupted by a punch to the gut, causing blood to fly out and him to slam into the opposite wall, where he collapsed trying to regain his breath from the punch caused by none other than Tsunade, with her fist still extended and her face shadowed by her hair. Get this piece of shit to the council room and I want him there yesterday, Tsunade said sternly to her Anbu, holding back her rage after her previous actions. With that done, she turned towards the direction of the meeting room, wanting to get this taken care of this as soon as possible. Konoha Council Room. As Naruto was dragged to the center of the council room, which was made up of clan leaders, civilians and the village elders. These leaders were made up of Sume Inuzuka, Hiyashi Hyuga, Shibi Aburame, Inoichi Yamanaka, Cho Akamichi, Shikaku Nara, with the Uchiha seat being filled by Danzo Shimura, and also being one of the elders. The civilian section being filled by certain merchants and high political figures, which was led by none other than Mabui Haruno, who was sneering at Naruto from the side. The other two elders were Kaharu Utakane and Homura Mitokado, with Tsunade being in the middle of both of them. This council meeting has been called into session for the crimes of Naruto Uzumaki. Tsunade announced, causing ones on the civilian sides to go into hysterics, calling for things such as, kill the demon brat, and kill the demon before it escapes, with the loudest being one said in Haruno. Silence, Tsunade shouted, getting everyone to quiet down except for one fat civilian with fancy cloths on. Hokage-sama, with all respect, why don't we just kill the demon brat, it'll make your job easier, spoke the fat civilian, trying to appease the Hokage. The reason why we won't kill him is none of your concern, civilian, and you will not question my judgment, do you understand? Tsunade stated with emphasis on the word civilian, getting her point across the room. Yes, Hokage-sama, the fat merchant responded in fear. Hokage, if you don't mind me asking, what shall we do with Uzumaki-san if he's not to be executed? Inoichi asked, not trying to draw the ire of his Hokage. Well, Inoichi, he shall either be banished or sent to a Syrian prison for high-ranking shinobi. That is why this meeting has been called to vote whether he shall be banished or shipped off to prison, Tsunade stated, catching everybody's attention. Tsunade-san, do you truly think it would be wise to allow the Kyuubi container to roam unprecedented if banished? Danzo spoke up, putting his 2 cents in the conversation. Yes, that is why we shall have a vote. All who believe Uzumaki should be thrown in prison, raise your hand, Tsunade stated, followed by most of the council to raise their hand except for Sume, Shibi, and surprisingly Hiyashi. Then it has been decided, Naruto Uzumaki, you will spend an unspecified amount of time in the deepest pits of the blood prison. This can't be happening, thought Naruto as he stared in despair, not believing what he just heard. He turned to Ba no Tsunade, asking with his eyes to believe him and not to condemn him to this fate. But when he stared into her eyes, all he saw was rage reflecting back, and he flinched, not used to that amount of anger directed to him. Ba-chan, you have to believe me, I've sacrificed my life over and over again for this village, I have the scars to prove it, you have to believe me, Naruto pleaded to Tsunade in a last-ditch effort to speak his innocence. Tsunade's eyes wavered for only a moment but stayed a moment later, showing no signs of changing her decisions. Anbu, take the Serminal to transport and get him ready for relocation immediately, Tsunade ordered firmly. No sooner did she say it did the Anbu start dragging Naruto out of the council room. You can't do this, I'm innocent, you have to let me go, I didn't do it, Naruto screamed while being dragged out until one of the Anbu knocked him out with a chop to the next. Konoha village streets. What happened? Naruto mumbled drowsily until he realized he was in cage going down the streets while civilians around him cheered his imprisonment. Looking around he saw his friends looking at him with anger and cheering along with the villagers. Then he noticed Sakura who was looking at him with a smug smile on her face showing she enjoyed his imprisonment, but when one of his so-called friends looked at her the expression instantly changed to a fearful on. This caused him to release he was set up and his so-called friends believed he actually tried to kill the one he took a Chidori to the chest for. This caused him no small amount of despair to form in the pits of his stomach. For a moment everything went silent, the villagers cheering, the angered shouting from his do-called friends, even all his thoughts went silence and he could hear something deep inside him snap. It was ominous, he no longer felt despair for being wrongly imprisoned, he didn't feel the rocks and fruits that he just now noticed the villagers had been throwing at him, he didn't even feel when a rock hit him above his eye causing blood to flow freely into his left eye. All he felt was a deep and indescribable rage at all the villagers, his so-called friends. And the one person he felt was family, the one he thought actually cared for him, the one he saw as a persuado mother had belied his ex-teammate over him. At that point something changed in him, something that would cause his future enemies to fear angering him and his allies to feel a sensation of relief as well as pity for those that caught his ire. This day would be the day that the oh-so-trusting and friendly Naruto would change. Deep underground where no light reached unless it was a flame. Down there was a cell, but the thing was it was the only cell down there. In that cell was prisoner who was chained to a wall on the far side. When the light from that small flame projected on the figure, all you could see was a skinny pale male with long white hair reaching the floor of the prison. The figure was about 5 feet 10 from first glance. When the light reached his face you'd have to take a look back because of how effeminate at first glanced. The figure had glacier blue eyes that if you looked long enough you'd see that there was a faint design of a snowflake. On his face you'd be able to see 3 faint lines on each side of his cheeks resembling whiskers. When the figure let out a sigh you could see that his canines were slightly longer than normal, giving him the look of vague resemblance to a fox. That's enough, Naruto, take a break, you can only use so much chakra before the seals activate, spoke Akari, or more widely known as the Kyuubi no Yoko. With that being said the small light that was illuminating the room went out causing the cell to be plunged into darkness. So Akari-sensei, when do you think Ryu-chan will come down for my weekly feeding? Naruto asked his sensei, oddly enough it being a large fox. I don't know, Naruto-kun, you know the guards don't keep a regular schedule for you to be fed, spoke Akari, not forgetting the time the guards didn't feed him for 3 weeks. Good thing water dripped from his cell onto his head or he would have died sooner from starvation and dehydration. Yeah, you're right, sensei, but it should be soon though, spoke Naruto out loud, not worried about anyone hearing him. As soon as he said that he could hear the cell doors open and in walked Ryuzetsu with a plate of food in her hand. Ryu-chan, how you've been this week? Asked Naruto to the beauty in front of him. Ryuzetsu had fair skin, waist-length white hair that is covered by a green bandana that has a long curved white stripe. It also covered up her right eye, leaving her left mesmerizing circle-patterned gray eye looking up at him. She wore a sleeveless kimono over a green top that only has a long green sleeve covering her left arm along with the green bandana. Both her arms were bandaged up to her elbows. She also wore black trousers with shinobi sandals. All in all she looked like a bishoujo. Hey Foxy-kun, I am doing just fine, how about you? Any closer till you find a way to get out of those chains? Ryuzetsu spoke with a hint of mirth at his situation for the last 3 years. I'm almost there, I have the spiritual part of chakra down packed. In about 1 month I should be able to escape from these chains and finally start building up my body. Naruto stated with a hint of joy from almost being able to escape from his bodily confinement. That's great, Foxy, but you know it's not the same without you up top, I miss seeing you on the regular, admitted Ryuzetsu while grabbing the stale bread and slowly feeding it to him. I know what you mean, Ryu-chan, but it's better being down here, less people to betray me. You know you're the only one I trust anymore, well, you and Fuzzy, Naruto said, chewing slowly not to choke. Naruto, just for that little comment I'll be making your training tonight even more hellish. I might not be able to physical hurt you, but you will remember the phantom pains, ha 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 ha. Akari stated with a hint of joy at torturing her container. I'm in hell, Ryu-chan, save me from sensei. She going to kill me mentally? Naruto whined with anime tears falling down his face. It'll be fine, Foxy, a little tort. I mean, training never hurt anyone, Ryuzetsu said, covering up her slip-up of wording. Oh, I heard that you were going to say torture, Naruto exclaimed. I have no idea what you're talking about, Ryuzetsu said, with the hand not feeding Naruto covering her mouth and her head turned to the side. Why me? Naruto exclaimed dramatically. Well, that's all the food, Foxy-kun. I only have a few more minutes before the guards become suspicious, Ryuzetsu said with a mirthful smile, not enjoying not being able to speak to her Foxy for a while. Hey, none of that, it's only for a little while, besides soon we'll both be free. Naruto exclaimed, trying to cheer Ryuzetsu up. Naruto wouldn't know just how correct his words were, and by the most unlikely suspect. Konoha Hokage's office. Nothing was the same since one ball of sunshine had left her life, and she could blame no one but herself for not believing one of the people she considered family. Tsunade sat at her desk with a blank stare. She couldn't get her mind off of the news she heard from one Ino Yamanaka just 5 minutes ago. Flashback no jutsu. You have to repeat that, Ino. I thought I heard you say that Naruto was set up by Sakura. Tsunade spoke with a no-nonsense tone. It's just as I said, Hokage-sama. Last night after we had just came back from a party, Sakura was intoxicated and was complaining to me about Sasuke's betrayal, and then she started talking about how she wished Naruto had died instead of being imprisoned for failing to bring back her, and I quote, Sasuke-kun. Then she stated that I'm glad I got him imprisoned with the same jutsu he loves so much. Ino summarized. So you're telling me that my own apprentice, the one that I see as a surrogate daughter, lied to me about her attempted murder? But that doesn't make any sense, there were multiple witnesses. Tsunade exclaimed, not wanting to believe that she put away an innocent man. No less her godson. Oh, she knew that he was her godson. It came with being Hokage that she knew who Naruto's parents were. After all, she was a witness to the marriage between Minato and Kushina. If this was true, then not only had she abandoned her godson, but also wrongly imprisoned him. Not to interrupt Lady Tsunade, but she told me her mother had paid off a few civilians and a couple chunin that took the money to pretend like they actually witnessed the alleged attempt happen. Ino said, catching Tsunade's attention. If what you say is true, then, oh Kami-sama, that means I imprisoned him for no reason, Tsunade stated, on the verge of tears but holding back to not seem weak in front of one of her subordinates. If that's all you have to tell me, you're free to go, Yamanaka-san. Tsunade spoke after a minute. That's all, Hokage-sama. With that said, Ino bowed and left the room. Flashback no jutsu end. When Ino left, Tsunade ordered her Anbu away so she could have a moment to herself. As soon as she felt that she was alone, she let the tears freely flow. What have I done? Tsunade thought to herself with her hands shaking in front of her. I have to get him back, and when he's back I hope he's able to forgive me for my wrongdoings. Tsunade prayed, hoping after she got him back things could go back to how things were at first. Though something deep within her told her things would never be the same again. I've gathered you here so we may bring back a wrongly accused man. Tsunade addressed to the occupants of the room. Said occupants being Kakashi Hitaki, Hinata Hyuga, Shino Aburame, Ino Yamanaka and Kiba Inuzuka. And who might that be, Hokage-sama? Kakashi asked for the occupants of the room. The person I'm speaking of is Naruto Kakashi-san, Tsunade announced, causing shock and surprise to spread throughout the room. But how can that be, Tsunade-sama? You told us there was indisputable evidence when Naruto was arrested. Said Hinata, talking about the time Tsunade made a public announcement about the arrest. Tsunade grimaced at the reminder of her wrongdoings. Yes, Hinata, you are indeed correct about that, but I was proven wrong when Yamanaka-san came with some shocking news, if you would. Tsunade spoke, getting Ino to tell them what she heard from her ex-best friend. After updating everyone on the situation, if you don't know what I'm talking about, please read the last chapter again. Tsunade took a look around the room to judge their expressions. Hinata had both her hands over her mouth and looked like she was on the verge of tears. Kakashi had his eyes slightly widened. Shino looked unaffected, but if you listened closely you could hear buzzing coming from him, and Kiba looked like he didn't care one bit. This caused Tsunade to narrow her eyes at him but didn't say anything. That's why I've called you all here. I've chosen all of you as my escorts to go and free Naruto from his imprisonment. Tsunade stated, catching their attention. Tsunade-sama, where is Naruto imprisoned? You never mentioned where you sent him, Ino asked, not knowing where the blonde was located. Nobody in Konoha knows his hair is white now for all you picky readers. At this moment Naruto is being held at Huzuki-ju, more widely known as the Blood Prison. Mui the warden there already should be expecting us because of a letter I sent earlier. Tsunade stated, "Where is the Blood Prison located, Tsunade-sama?" Hinata asked, still not knowing the location, getting everyone but Kakashi to nod their head. "It's located in grass country. It shouldn't be no more than a 2-day trip if we hurry, so I want all of you to pack for a week. If that's all your questions, then we'll be leaving in 1 hour from now." Looking around to see if anybody had any more questions. Tsunade, seeing nobody had anything else to ask, dismissed them to go pack. "I'm coming for you, Naruto. I hope you can forgive this foolish woman for her actions," thought Tsunade with a determined look, ready to get her godson. Blood Prison 3 days later. Again Akari ordered Naruto, who was right now in his mindscape healing a faceless figure. Due to it being his mindscape, Naruto could imagine anything he wanted and it would appear, so to show his appreciation to his first real sensei he decided to change his mindscape around. Right now he was in a field with a waterfall and small foxes around. He was using his chakra to heal a pretend person trying to heal a gouge to the left lung and a nick to the heart. Akari, knowing Naruto couldn't leave his prison to work on his body, decided to have him learn as much as he could on the human body and plants. Considering she was one of the oldest beings on the planet, she had a lot of knowledge on the human body and most plants. Using the mindscape to turn her knowledge into books with express permission from Naruto to do so, of course. Right now he was using the spiritual part of his chakra to rejuvenate the cells on a molecular level to heal the wound. Instead of creating new cells, which would have shortened the patient's life because the human body could only create so many cells at once. By rejuvenating the cells, he wasn't adding on but using the same existing cells and repairing them, making healing a patient easier while also cutting the time for wounds to close up by 75%. "Yes, ma'am," Naruto answered back, not wanting to disappoint his teacher. Putting his hands on the wounds, he focused on the spiritual part of his chakra, or Kaido as Akari calls it. His hands started to emit a faint blue glow, causing the wound on the humanoid Dumby to heal at an extraordinary rate. Within 30 seconds the wound was healed. "Good, you finally have the technique down. Next I'll start to teach you how to strengthen your muscles with Kaido," Akari stated with a neutral tone, but you could hear just a slither of pride that her student could get the technique down in a little over a week in what should have been a month. "Thank Kami, I'm tired of being chained to a wall," Naruto exclaimed with no small amount of joy. "Naruto, I hope you realize because of you not being active for almost 3 years has caused your muscles to be likened to a twig. This being the case, when you use Kaido to strengthen your muscles, it will cause them rip if not destroy them," Akari warned Naruto, not wanting to see him in any unnecessary pain. "I'll be fine, it's not like I'm new to pain," Naruto said, remembering on his birthdays, instead of it being a joyous day, it was instead spent running away from mobs and civilians wanting him dead for killing their family members. "Naruto, I sense someone approaching, and by the chakra signature it's not Ryuzetsu," Akari warned. "Thanks, sensei," Naruto thanked Akari, leaving his mindscape. Naruto's cell. "Uzumaki, you have a visitor here for you," a guard said with a torch in his hand. "A visitor for me? That can't be right," Naruto told the guard with a suspicious tone, not believing anyone would want to visit him. "You don't have to believe me, 'cause I could give a rat's ass if you died today or tomorrow," spoke the guard, unlocking the chains that held his body up for the better part of 3 years. As the last chain was freed from his body, it caused him to fall to the ground in a heap, not being able to stand on his own due to not using his leg muscles. "Damn it all to hell, now I have to carry your sorry ass all the way up to the top," said the guard, not happy that he had to carry the white-haired teen. With that being said, the guard slung Naruto over his shoulder, not caring if he was being gentle or not. "At least you're not heavy, you weigh less than my son and he's 6 and weighs only 50 pounds. With that being said, the guard took Naruto up the dark steps. "Do you know who'd like to visit me?" Naruto asked, trying to gain knowledge on who would want to see him after all these years. "No, but it had to be someone high profile to get your sorry ass out of those chains." After that was said, the walk became silent, with neither having anything to speak to the other about. 10 minutes earlier. "Okay, everybody be on your best behavior," Tsunade told the group, followed by a collective sound of "hi" as she entered the prison. "You must be Tsunade, I've heard such wonderful things about you," spoke a voice from the right side of her. Ah, and you must be Mui. I've heard how you run a tight ship around here and I'm not disappointed. Tsunade spoke, giving praise to the warden. You are correct, and I'm very proud of how well ordered my prison is. So with that being said, what do you require from me, Lady Tsunade? Spoke Mui, getting straight to the point. Yes, I would like to come for one of your prisoners, Uzumaki Naruto to be precise. Tsunade stated, no longer beating around the bush either. I see, and why would you want him? You told me a few years ago that he was a traitor to the village and that he should die in prison. Mui told Tsunade with a small look of interest. Tsunade had to stop herself from flinching at her aforementioned words. I did say that, but there has been, how do I say, new light to the crime, proving his innocence. Tsunade admitted, I suppose it's not any of my concern. So you want to set him free, but you do know it'll cost you, Mui said, turning away from her. Yes, that's why I have 1,000,000 yen sealed right here for said prisoner. Tsunade said, pulling out a scroll from her robes. Ah, that'll do nicely. Mui said. You? Mui pointed to a random guard. Sir, go get Uzumaki-san from the isolation dungeon. Mui commanded guard. Sir, yes sir, the guard proclaimed. Now while we wait, would any of you like some tea? Mui asked the group of shinobi and kunoichi. Present time. Sir, here is the prisoner. The guard said, still carrying Naruto in a fireman's carry. Ah, thank you. You can put him down now in that chair over by the table over there, Mui told the guard. So Uzumaki-san, how does it feel to almost be free? Mui said with fake cheer to his voice. What are you talking about? Free? What the fuck do you mean by free? Naruto exclaimed, not being able to believe his ears. It's exactly as I said. As of today you're a free man. Would you like to meet your savior? Mui told with a small flourish of his hands towards Naruto. I would if I could move my legs or arms. Being chained to a wall does kind of cause the blood to not circulate through the body, Naruto said with sarcasm at his situation. Well, that can be solved easily. You guard? Mui said, pointing to the same guard. Sir. Get Uzumaki-san a wheelchair. Mui commanded the guard. Hi. The guard responded back with a salute. 5 minutes later the guard came back with said with wheelchair. That will be all now. Now Uzumaki, would you like to meet your benefactor? Mui said with a fake smile plastered to his face. Sure, Naruto said, still dazed from the revelation. In another room. Everybody stay respectful no matter what, even if Naruto speaks with anger, do you understand? Tsunade told the group with a stern tone. Hi Hokage-sama, said group announced as one, hearing the seriousness in her tone. Not even a minute later Tsunade and the others could hear the door opening and the sounds of wheels turning. The first thing that came across Tsunade's mind was, who was this girl with white hair in the wheelchair, until she saw the oh so familiar whiskers on said girl's face, causing Tsunade's mind to shut down. Naruto, is that you? Tsunade spoke in barely a whisper. When she saw the familiar but lighter blue eyes, she wanted to run over there and hug him, but thought better of it if not for her noticing the eyes turning cold and the scowl on his face, showing how much of a bad idea that would have been. Oh, if this isn't a surprise, it's the woman that threw me in prison. Naruto said with an ice tone. What do you want to add more onto my imprisonment, or have you finally decided to finally kill me, Tsunade-sama? Naruto spoke with so much venom on her name. And if it isn't my so-called backstabbing friends found anyone else to betray, or has the pink-haired slut got you tied around her finger? Naruto disdainfully spoke to his ex-friends. Oh, and it looks like you finally hooked up with the mutt Hinata. Seeing as you used to stalk me so much, I'm surprised. Naruto spoke, seeing her and Kiba's hands intertwined. Hinata's eyes had gone wide, hearing that he knew about her past escapades. Oh, you thought I never noticed that you used to follow me around like a lost puppy. I just never wanted you to get hated for associating with me. But now I see you're nothing but a bitch who acts like they have feelings for someone, but would turn your backs on them in a second. You hear that, mutt? You better watch your back or she'll do the same to you. I forgot though, you like bitches, don't you? So what does she do? Bend it over for you as soon as you're home. Does she have a collar? Naruto spoke, not caring that Hinata was on her knees crying or that Kiba looked ready to murder him. Oh, if it isn't Ino, or should I say the pink-haired howler monkey's lapdog. Naruto, I. Bu. What? Naruto interrupted. What were you going to say? Oh, I'm sorry that you went to prison. It was only because my friend framed you, no biggie, right? Yeah, no, fuck you and your half-assed I'm sorry. And let's not forget my hypocrite, sensei. With your whoever abandons their comrades is worser than trash bullshit, and if that's the case then you must be worse than trash. Let's point out the fact the only fucking thing you taught me was tree walking, and that was with us being in danger of losing our lives on a fucking C-rank mission turned fucking A rank with no backup. The only fucking reason you didn't lose a student was because I took down Haku that time, and considering she took your rakery to the chest for Zabuza, who also saved our ass along with my shadow clones scaring away the bandits. If it wasn't for that, you and your genius of a student would have died, cause you know the howler monkey back then was worthless. Naruto insulted. Shino, you're the only one here I don't have anything against, mostly cause I never saw you with the group of traitors, Naruto admitted, actually showing a neutral face to Shino. The situation was illogical, nothing added up, Naruto-san, Shino said in a monotone voice. And that why I have nothing against you, but the rest of you can fuck yourselves to the moon and back, Naruto said, finishing his rant. Naruto, we found evidence of your innocence, we're getting you out of here and taking you back to Konoha, your home. Tsunade said, trying not to break down, crying, ha ha ha, that has got to be the funniest thing I've heard in a long time. Konoha was never my home, it was my other cage, Naruto said, laughing but ending on a sour note. What would it take for me to get you to come back to Konoha, Naruto? Tsunade pleaded. The only thing that can get me to come back is something you can't achieve. Naruto stated with a cold tone. Tell me and I swear as Hokage of Konoha and someone who cares that I will get it. Tsunade stated with a determined tone of voice. If that's really true then ain't I a stinker, you'll have to excuse the cliffhanger, it's 30 minutes until New Year's and I'm tired as hell. I've been working on this chapter for 3 hours basically non-stop today, and not to mention not having any inspiration the other day cause of problems y'all don't care about, but yeah, my IFE sucks. With all that said, hope everyone has a happy New Year's with your families and friends. This is JT signing out, be breezy. The only thing that can get me to come back is something you can't achieve. Naruto stated with a cold tone. Tell me and I swear as Hokage of Konoha and someone who cares that I will get it. Tsunade stated with a determined tone of voice. If that's really true then I want to know who my mother was. Cause I already know who my father is, and I want you to get my friend Ryuzetsu out of here. I promised I'd get me and her out of here, and unlike the leaf I'm loyal to those I care about. Naruto stated in a commanding tone. How I'm supposed to get your friend out of here, and I'm guessing your friend must cost a lot to get her out of here. Tsunade said with exasperation. Should be easy since my father was Hokage, and considering that you had his son falsely accused for a bullshit crime. Naruto, let's be reasonable, Tsunade tried to say but was interrupted by Naruto. I honestly don't give two shits about reason, especially from a fucking hypocrite, cause let me ask you something, were you reasonable with me? Cause if so we wouldn't be here right now. So let's go over this again. Will you get my companion out of here, or will you risk a Jinchuriki to wander and go to an enemy village such as Kumo or maybe Iwa? I bet they'd love to have another Jinchuriki, Naruto said with threatening tone. Naruto. Fine, Tsunade said with a defeated tone. It's good you could see reason, Naruto said with a sarcastic tone. It won't cost as much as your little friend here, Mui, who had been listening on the side of the room, said, walking over. Is that so? Then how much would it cost for this Ryuzetsu, if I heard correctly? Tsunade stated, hoping the prisoner wasn't as costly as Naruto. That's correct, and he'll only cost 100,000 yen, significantly less than your little friend here. Mui said with a fake smile in place. It's good thing I decided to bring an extra 500,000 yen in case of an emergence, or this would be more stressful than it has to be. Tsunade thought with a bit of exasperation but with an emotionless expression on the outside as she handed Mui the amount that was asked for. Pleasure doing business with you, Lady Tsunade, Mui said with his oh-so-fake smile still in place. You. Go get me Ryuzetsu-san, Mui said to a guard, knowing that it wouldn't take no more than 5 minutes. While we're waiting you can tell me about my mother, Naruto said, getting them back on track. Well, your mother was Kushina Uzumaki, or better known as aka She or Red Death, because the only thing an enemy saw before she died was her red hair. Tsunade told Naruto. If she really was an Uzumaki, that means I'm related to Mito Uzumaki? Naruto asked, receiving a nod from Tsunade. Then that means I have a clan. Yes, Naruto, you're correct, you had a clan, but they were eradicated in Second Shinbi World War by the combined forces of Iwa, Kumo, and Kiri. Tsunade told Naruto with a grim undertone. If that's true, then where did they originate from? Cause I'm pretty sure they never taught us this in the academy. Naruto asked. They originated from Uzu-Shiogakure, or the land hidden in whirlpools. It's located 3 miles from Wave Country, but the whirlpools are so strong no one tries to step foot on the island. Tsunade told Naruto. If that's true and I really am related to Mito-sama, then why was I treated so horribly? Tell me that and I want the true reason, not an excuse. Naruto demanded with a no-nonsense tone. Naruto, let me ask you a question, when is your birthday? Tsunade asked Naruto. October 10th, but what does that have to do with anything? Naruto said, getting annoyed. And what happened on that day? Tsunade asked. The only thing I can think about is the… Naruto spoke, getting quitter as he continued. The day you were born was the day the Kyuubi attacked, and because of that and someone leaking out you being a Jinchuritsuki caused the people to direct their anger towards you. Tsunade said with some regret. So I was used as an scapegoat for the villagers because someone couldn't keep their mouth shut. Naruto said with an emotionless tone. Hee 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 ha 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 ha. Naruto giggled quietly but got louder until it became hysterical. Ha ha ha. Naruto stopped all of a sudden. So instead of being raised like any other child with an actual childhood? Naruto asked Tsunade with a cold tone. Naruto, the villagers were in grief. Bullshit, you weren't the one fucking tortured on your birthdays, you weren't the one that was kicked out of the orphanage at the age of 4. You weren't the one that was starved by the people who were supposed to make sure you were well fed. You weren't the one isolated for the better part of 13 years unless it was to be fucking tortured. You also weren't the one that was fucking raped on your birthday. Naruto stopped mid-rant as he heard the door open, showing Ryuzetsu with tears running down her eyes. Naruto, Ryuzetsu said so quietly you had to strain your ears to hear her. When he heard that, Naruto felt an uneasy feeling rest in his stomach, realizing Ryuzetsu had heard everything he said. Ryu-I. Before Naruto could finish, Ryuzetsu had ran into his chest, almost toppling them both over out of the wheelchair he sat in. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, was all Naruto could hear her mumbling, breaking his heart. Ryuzetsu, you know I don't like seeing you cry, so please stop. Naruto said, struggling to raise his arms, but succeeded in hugging her to him. But if you what? I didn't know you back then, Ryu, so you couldn't have stopped it. Naruto told her quietly. But Naruto. She was once again stopped by Naruto putting his head atop of hers. It's okay, none of this is your fault and I don't blame you, so stop crying please. Naruto said to her in a comforting voice. Not to break up this little reunion, but I believe it's time for me to take the seals off. Mui said, interrupting the moment. Sure, let's do it now, Naruto tried to say with no emotion but couldn't stop the small amount of joy from slipping through. Yes, but for me to do that you'd have to separate. Mui said with some amusement. Naruto, just realizing that Ryuzetsu was still nestled to his chest. Ryu, I need you to let me go. Naruto said awkwardly. Yeah sure Naruto, Ryuzetsu said, realizing the position she was in. Now please stand still, Mui asked. With that being said, his hand was set ablaze and fire started to come from Ryuzetsu's chest, causing her to freeze up, feeling something unlock inside of her. When the procedure was done, Ryuzetsu fell to her knees out of breath. I can feel it, I can feel my chakra. Ryuzetsu said, still on her knees but with a happy tone. Your turn, Naruto-san, Mui said, walking over towards him. I'm ready, Naruto said with no hesitation. Mui, starting the same process as he did for Naruto, put his hand towards Naruto, saw the flames leave his chest. Ah! Naruto suddenly started convulsing, falling out of the wheelchair. What's going on? Why he in pain? Tsunade demanded, worried about Naruto. Suddenly Naruto started glowing a blinding white light, causing all the room's occupants to turn their heads away from the light. What's happening to him? Ryuzetsu asked, worried about her white-haired companion. Inside Naruto's seal. God damn it, Naruto, what did you do now? Akari shouted, noticing that most of her chakra was entering into Naruto's chakra pool. This is going to be an interesting development. Outside the seal, the light started to lessen to the point they could finally look back to see what happened. What they saw caused many different reactions throughout the room. Naruto now laid on the ground with 2 white fuzzy ears on his head. His fingers now had lengthened nails that were about 2.5 inches long. The most noteworthy change were the 5 snow-white tails that he now had. The silence was interrupted by a groan from Naruto. What happened? Naruto said with his hair covering his eyes. Naruto Don, freak out but you look kind of different. Ryuzetsu said nervously. What do you mean? Naruto said with a worried tone. You might want to look behind you. Ryuzetsu told him. Turning around ever so slowly, Naruto saw his tails. Oh, I have tails, Naruto said, not worried until realization crashed into him like one of Tsunade's punches. Oh my Kami, I have tails, Naruto screamed, not noticing that he could stand on his own feet. The effeminate male then started to nervously touch one of his tails. It's so soft, Naruto said with glazed over eyes, causing his fox ears to twitch atop his head. With him saying that, he started to uddle his tail, forgetting about the other occupants of the room. Kawi, was the collective thoughts of all the girls. Naruto, can you please focus? Ryuzetsu said, trying her hardest not to run over there and scratch behind his ears. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Naruto said sheepishly with his ears laying flat atop his head. Naruto, you know you're standing right. Ryuzetsu pointed out, just now noticing herself. What do you mean? Naruto said with his head tilted to the side, causing one ear to stand up and the other to lay flat with a confused expression. He has to be doing this on purpose, was the collective thoughts of all the females in the room. Just look down, was all Ryuzetsu said. I can control my body, Naruto screamed after a minute of staring. Note to self: thank Akari for WHT ever happened to me. Naruto thought to himself. So Naruto, do you know what happened? Tsunade asked with a cautious tone, not wanting him to become upset with them again. I think what happened was. Hope you enjoy the chapter. Also shout out to Gamijiro, thanks to him we have another addition to the harem, and to Ryujomaru 15. Sorry I can't PM you, something is wrong with my Gmail, so yeah, my shit tripping ball sacks. Also, how would you feel if I give Naruto an adopted child? Vote in the reviews, male or female. This is the amazing JT saying be breezy. Foxy-kun, can I ask you a question? Ryuzetsu asked. You technically did, but sure, Naruto said with a grin. Ryuzetsu rolled her eyes at his joke but couldn't stop the small grin from showing because of it. Before we get to Konoha, I just want to know, how much longer do I have to pretend to be a guy? Ryuzetsu asked with a small amount of annoyance. What are you talking about? I never had you pretend to be a guy in the first place. Naruto said with an eyebrow raised. Oh, so you're telling me I pretended to be a guy for the last 2 days for nothing? Ryuzetsu said, bringing her face closely to Naruto's unconsciously. Ryu-chan, can you step back a little bit? Naruto said, trying to hide his blush with his long hair because of their close proximity. Why should I? Ryuzetsu said with her now pushing her wrapped chest up against Naruto's. Because why, you're kind of close. Naruto said, mentally cursing himself for stuttering. Oh, was all Ryuzetsu said, now sporting a blush of her own but not moving away. Yeah, so can you take a step back? Naruto said, mentally praising himself for not stuttering. Well, what if I don't want to? Ryuzetsu said, still heavily blushing but now supporting a seductive smirk. But what do you mean? Naruto said, trying to make sense of his situation. It means. Ryuzetsu said, putting her face closer to his. I want you. With those words being said, Ryuzetsu softly out her lips to Naruto's, causing him to freeze up. Ryuzetsu, not noticing or just not caring, just continued to kiss Naruto. Slowly but surely Naruto started to kiss back, causing Ryuzetsu to smile internally at her affections being returned. Their innocent kiss slowly became more heated as Ryuzetsu asked for entrance into Naruto's mouth by licking his bottom lip. Which Naruto happily obliged by opening his mouth. Not a second later, Ryuzetsu shot her tongue into his mouth, wrapping around his own, causing the two to enter into a battle of dominance. After 3 minutes of this, they were both forced to part ways because of lack of oxygen. Both now sported puffy lips and were breathing heavily with a string of saliva still connected. That was, wow, Ryuzetsu said, interrupting him. I was going to say breathtaking, but that works too, Naruto said with a cheeky smile. This causing Ryuzetsu to giggle. So what brought that on? Naruto said curiously. I wanted to know for sure that you felt the same way I do. Ryuzetsu admitted. Why would you want someone like me? Not that I'm denying your feelings, but why someone like me? Naruto asked curiously. Naruto, you're the reason why I'm out of prison, but not only that, but through the few years we've known each other, you've made my life worth living again. Before you I was just living to live, going day by day with nothing changing, but when you came it was like something in me wanted to reach out towards you. Even when they chained you up in the dungeon I couldn't wait to see you again, cause every time I saw you it caused my heart to quicken. The time I realized I fell for you was when you got me and you out of prison, that's what broke the dam. So Foxy, after hearing all this, what do you feel about me? Ryuzetsu, I don't know what to say. Naruto said, trying to put his feelings into words. Jade, just speak from the heart. Ryuzetsu said, putting her hand over his heart. Ryu-chan, when I first met you I thought you were nothing but a brooding pretty boy. Then I found out you were a female. After that you started showing me a side of you that no one else got to see but me. When you started to come to me with your problems, it made me forget about my own problems and just focus on you. It caused me to forget about the betrayal, and with that it made me to slowly trust you. When they chained me down there, it was hard not to break down, going days, sometimes weeks without any company. Naruto took a deep breath, but thinking that I get to see you again, even if for only a few minutes a week. That's what stopped me from breaking. As long as you came was what I thought. It made that hellhole just a little more bearable, and during those times when the guards forgot about me, leaving me isolated in the dark with just me and my thoughts, was when I realized I loved you. I was scared to come out with my feelings though, because if I did and you didn't return them, I thought something would change, and I was scared of that change, cause if you left it would have been the finally straw, and I was sacred of the final result. So instead I just locked them away, cause I never wanted to jeopardize our relationship and risk losing you altogether. Naruto said, feeling like a weight was lifted off his shoulder. I never knew you felt that way. To me you were always this unmovable wall that nothing could affect. Hearing this though just made me feel better for deciding to take the plunge. Besides, if I hadn't have kissed you I wouldn't have learned all these interesting things about you. Ryuzetsu said with a sly smile. Ah well, that couldn't be helped with our current situation, ha ha ha. Naruto said, chuckling at the end. So Foxy, I guess this makes us a couple. Ryuzetsu said, once again moving closer to his face. Yeah, I guess you're right, Naruto said, moving the rest of the way, once again connecting their lips together, starting another makeout session. Unknown to both of them, they had a witness to their little moment. Room next to Naruto's and Ryuzetsu. Oh Kami, Hinata said, no believing what she just witnessed. As ninjas I'm pretty sure most if not all know how to read lips. What is it, Hinata? Ino asked. I just saw Naruto-kun and Ryuzetsu-san making out. Hinata told Ino, still in shock. Oh Kami, I never thought Naruto swung that way. Well, that explains Naruto when Sasuke left. Ino said, just a shocked. Actually, from listening in on their conversation, Ryuzetsu isn't really a kun but a chan. Hinata admitted with her face a dark scarlet. Oh well. I forget what I said about Naruto and Sasuke then. Ino said sheepishly. So what else are they doing? Ino asked curiously. They're undressing each other. Hinata said with steam coming out of her ears and some blood coming out of her nose. Earth to Hinata. Ino said, waving her hand back and forth in front of Hinata's face. Eep! Squeaked Hinata. I forgot it's always the quiet ones you have to watch out for. Ino said teasingly. So Hinata, how big is he since you have your Byakugan on? Ino, that's not something you should ask others. Hinata stuttered out. Oh, is that some jealousy I hear? Ino teased. No Ino-chan, you know I'm going with Kiba-kun. Though Ino didn't know it, Hinata did feel some jealousy towards Ryuzetsu for getting the man she had been chasing after for little more than half her life. Hi, I know, Hinata. Ino said, not believing her for a second. So should we take this to Tsunade-sama? Hinata asked. Even though I don't want to, we should tell her as soon as possible. Ino said, not feeling comfortable telling her village leader that they were eavesdropping. Why yeah, you're right Ino-chan, we should tell her. Hinata said, feeling the same way as Ino. Tsunade's personal room. So what's so important that you had to interrupt me from drinking my sake? Tsunade said, irritated that she got interrupted from, in her words, vacation away from paperwork. Well, I don't know how to say this but, Ino started but muttered at the end, you'll have to repeat that, I didn't quite catch that. Tsunade said, I said Naruto and Ryuzetsu. Ino said, once again muttering at the end, just say it, damn it. Tsunade yelled, tired of her muttering. What Ino meant to say was that me and her found out that Naruto and Ryuzetsu are in an intimate relationship. Hinata stated, surprisingly not stuttering. Well, that wasn't something I thought I would hear anytime soon. That explains why he went so far for Sasuke. I never thought the brat would swing for the other team though. Tsunade said, muttering the last part to herself. How did you two come about this information anyway? Tsunade asked the curiously. I was Hinata said, trying to get her words out. Oh, for the love of Hinata was spying on with her Byakugan. Ino said, exasperation mixed into her tone. I thought you were done spying on Naruto, especially with you and your relationship with Kiba. Tsunade replied, a little surprised Hinata still was spying on Naruto even after all these years. Eep, was the sound that followed Tsunade's response, including Hinata's face becoming a deep crimson. Well, teasing Hinata aside, Ryuzetsu is really a female. Ino admitted. Well, that was something I didn't suspect considering the blood prison is a strictly male prison. Tsunade said with her fingers rubbing her temples, trying to stem off the headache from coming. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would a female prisoner be in an all-male prison? Ino said, trying to think of a reason. I'm getting too old for this shit, Tsunade thought to herself, feeling the headache coming. So Hokage-sama, what are we going to do about the two of them? Ino asked Tsunade. Nothing for now, we can deal with this when we get back to the village. Now with that said, is there anything else you two need? Tsunade asked, receiving a negative shake of their heads. Then you're both dismissed. Hi Hokage-sama. Both females said as one, leaving the room. Now where were we? Tsunade said, hugging a sake bottle. In a dark room laid a young boy no older than 4 with only newspaper covering him up. The room was completely silent and the only thing you could hear was the boy's light breathing. Suddenly a bang was heard coming from behind the door leading into the room. No, not again, please Cammy, save me. Please somebody help me. I didn't do anything wrong. Cammy, please somebody help, I don't want to hurt anymore. Said the little boy, shivering from fright. Almost at the exact time he finished speaking, 2 drunken men both looking out of it. Behind them entered an old woman that looked like she was about to kneel over at any moment. She had a sinister gleam to her eye and a smirk on her face that you could tell was very sinister. Okay boys, you've paid me for 2 hours alone with the demon brat. You can do anything to him except cut off body parts that can't grow back. Other than that, you can do whatever you want to him. So I'll get out of your hair, hope you enjoy your time, demon, the old woman said, smiling evilly at the end as she left the room and locked the door. Me and my brother have been waiting a long time for our vengeance, demon. So do us a favor and scream. One of the brothers said, chuckling at the end at his joke. And no, stay back, I don't want to feel pain. The little boy said, crawling back until he hit a corner, making the newspaper fall off. Showing that the little boy had spiky blonde hair and blue eyes, but what stood out was the whisker marks on his face. Oh, look at this, the demon's begging for mercy. The other brother said, well, let's show him what we do to demons that beg him. The 2 brothers then pulled out kunais. Let's start with the whisker marks, let's really outline them. With said, one brother held the little boy down and started to carve into the whisker marks. Ah, stop please, was all young boy said, screaming for his assailants to stop. It seems the demon still hasn't learned. Do you have the salt and the drug, brother? The one cutting the little boy asked. I sure do, he said, handing the boy over to his brother so that way he could grab all the things necessary for their fun time. Pulling out a branding iron, the brother not holding the boy heated up with a small kaiden jutsu till it was red hot. Now let's label the demon so he never forgets what he's again. With that being said, the brother with the iron started to burn the young child on his naked back, causing him to scream in nothing but pure agony. Ah, please stop, I'm not a demon, I never did anything. The boy screamed, still not understanding why this was happening to him. All he knew was he was in hell. When the brothers were done with their work, they took a step back to admire their work. On the boy's back was the kanji for demon child, burnt in now. Where's the salt? We don't want the demon to mess up our work, do we, brother? Here it is, put it on our art, will you? He said, passing his brother his salt. Now scream as loud as you can for us, okay demon, haha. The brother said, pouring sal into the wound. Ah. The boy screamed, thrashing around. Hey, my wife has me in the doghouse because of a damn argument and I've been backed up. The brother said, grabbing his crotch, I think I got what you're saying. The other brother said with a sinister grin. The trashing little boy didn't understand what was going on around him except the pain in his back. Suddenly he felt the wind knocked from his lungs. Looking down, he saw one of the stranger's fist buried in his stomach. Falling to the ground, the man suddenly caught him and turned him around and grabbing the top of his torn underwear and ripped it off. Now let's have some fun, bro, he said, taking his pants off with his brother not far behind him. The boy finally getting mind together saw them starting to take their underwear off. After that a sudden fear came over him, causing him to crawl to the other side of the room. I guess he still has some fight in him. One of the brothers said, starting to walk over to him. When they grabbed him they started to caress his bare bottom. It's time to get some payback on the demon. One of the brothers said, positioning his member to penetrate the boy. The boy started to thrash around wildly, trying to escape. No. Present time. No. Naruto screamed, shooting up from his bed with his body covered in sweat. Feeling his damp white hair sticking to his head, he tried to calm down. Naruto, are you alright? Turning to his right, finding the occupant of the voice being Ryuzetsu with just her underwear on, looking at him with concern. I tried to wake you up cause you were murmuring in your sleep and thrashing around. Ryuzetsu told him with a comforting tone. It was just a nightmare, Ryu-chan. Naruto said, trying to reassure his now girlfriend. Do you want to talk about it? Ryuzetsu said in comforting voice with a hint of worry in it. Smiling towards her to put her at ease. I'm fine, but if it gets any worse you'll be the first to know. Naruto said with his mind slowly forgetting the memory in the presence of his girlfriend. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm here for you. Ryuzetsu said, smiling softly to him. Naruto looked down at her with a small smile on his face, showing his appreciation. I know you will, and you'll be the first person I tell if I feel it's that bad. Naruto said, leaning in and kissing Ryuzetsu. Knock. Are you two ready? It's time to move out. Kiba said behind the door, interrupting their moment. I guess it's time for us to get up. Ryuzetsu said, pouting, a little pissed off that her moment was ruined. Naruto couldn't help but smile at her pouting face. Not really thinking, Naruto placed a kiss on her forehead, causing Ryuzetsu to blush a dark red. Naruto pulling away and noticing her blush couldn't resist the chuckle from escaping his lips. I see you're enjoying my embarrassment, Ryuzetsu said with her back turned to Naruto with her hands folded, but couldn't resist the small grin from showing. But you're just so cute to tease, Naruto said with a grin on his face with his eyes closed, giving him a fox-like look. Yeah, hurry up and get dressed, it's time for us to leave, Ryuzetsu said, rolling her eyes at his silliness. Hi. Konoha Gates. Standing at the gates were two guards, also known as the internal gate guards, Kotetsu and Izumo. I'm bored, Kotetsu, why are we always stuck with guard duty anyway? Izumo complained, because it's the easiest B-rank job and it pays pretty well. Beside, what's wrong with guard duty? Kotetsu said with a bored look. Nothing other than it's the most boring job there is. Why are you complaining? It's not like anything you next pexted gonna happen. Kotetsu said, annoyed at his companions complaining. Hey, who's that over there? Izumo said, looking in the distance. It looks like Lady Tsunade and her entourage are back, and it looks like there are two people with them. Kotetsu said with his eyes squinted. Get at attention, Izumo, he told his companion. Noticing that Tsunade and her entourage wasn't far from them, caused both of them to snap to attention and salute. At ease, you two, Tsunade said, approaching them. Not to be rude, Hokage-sama, but who's the guy and girl? Izumo said, pointing at Ryuzetsu as the boy, and Naruto with his long hair hanging loosely in front of his face as th girl. One, they're both boys and that information is confidential, Tsunade said with a commanding tone. Sorry, Lady Tsunade, I didn't mean to overstep my boundaries, Izumo said nervously, not wanting to upset his Hokage. It's alright now, everyone follow me to my office, Tsunade said, walking ahead. Naruto with his tails and ears under a henge couldn't help but feel disgusted with the Leafs villagers. Seeing most of them smile and wave towards the group caused Naruto to feel a deep sense of hatred towards them. Feeling a hand be placed on his, Naruto looked up to see Ryuzetsu looking at him with worry. Naruto, realizing that he was growling, forced himself to calm down. Squeezing her hand and smiling at her to show his appreciation. Thanks, Naruto whispered. No problem, Foxy, Ryuzetsu said in a low tone. Hokage's office. Now, Naruto, I know that I have a lot to make up for, and what you requested was only the tip of the iceberg. Tsunade jumping straight into business mode. Before Naruto could say anything, Ryuzetsu stepped up and spoke for him. Not to be rude to my companion, but he's not the most thoughtful person in these situations. So I'll be helping him out with getting everything that the village owes him, Ryuzetsu said with a blank but commanding tone, showing she meant business. Only if Naruto agrees with what you said. Tsunade said with neutral tone, not threatened by Ryuzetsu. I agree with my companion, at least with Shish he won't stab me in the back. Said Naruto in a cold tone, causing most of the occupants in the room to flinch except for Shino and surprisingly Kiba not noticing the slip in his words. So what else do you want to gain your loyalty to the Leaf once again? Tsunade asked. I believe you should start with giving my comrade his inheritance and any filling and any charges on those who have caused any harm to him in any way. Tsunade grimaced at the Damans off the bat. It might take some work to get your full inheritance because some of the council used it for interest. Tsunade said cautiously, I don't care if you have to strip your damn council for everything they've got. Unless you want my friend and I to head to Suna or Iwa by the end of the month. Ryuzetsu said, not caring that she was basically threatening the Hokage. It'll be done, but it'll take longer than a month to charge those who wronged you, Naruto. Tsunade said, not liking being threatened. That's acceptable, anything you want to throw in, Naruto. Ryuzetsu asked her secret boyfriend. I want you to announce my heritage to the public so that way they can know they tortured and isolated their hero's son. I also want anything that is Uzumaki related, such as weapons and seals. Naruto added on, Naruto, let's be reasonable here. Your heritage was kept a secret for a reason. Tsunade said, not wanting the public to know his heritage at his current power yet. Oh, and why not, considering it's my heritage? Naruto asked in a matter-of-fact tone. At your current strength it would be too easy for an enemy village to capture you, especially since your father had so many enemies. Tsunade said, trying to reason with Naruto. Much good that fucking did. I would have rather been kidnapped instead. At least then I wouldn't have to worry about my own village torturing a small child. If you honestly believe that I'm better keep my heritage a secret, then look at my medical files. I'll give you till the end of the week to announce my heritage or you'll be down a Jinchuriki. Naruto said in a cold tone. I understand, was all Tsunade could say, though on the inside she was sad that the only family member she had left didn't even care about his village anymore. Anything else? Yes, I want a new place to stay cause the old one in the red light district was never meant for kids. Naruto said, remembering the times drunken villagers would break down his door and torture him. That can be easily solved, your parents owned a compound beside the Hyuga clan homes. Tsunade told Naruto, taking something from behind her desk, revealing keys. Then that's all for now, if there's anything else I'll come and tell you. Naruto spoke, taking the keys and leaving the room. With everyone gone, Tsunade finally slumped over with her hands resting on her forehead. Hitting a button, Tsunade told her secretary to cancel any appointments for the day. Bring out a bottle sake. Tsunade couldn't help but to sigh. I'm getting too old for this shit. Walking down a sparsely lit hallway was a frail, old man with a cane. He had black, shaggy hair, and his right eye was bandaged up, had an X-shaped scar on his chin ever since his youth. He also wore a white shirt, with a black, dark gray robe over the top of it covering from his feet to just over his right shoulder. The robe concealed his right arm, which was bandaged. Turning to his left was an ordinary wall. Biting the of his thumb of his not bandaged arm, he swiped it over a seemingly random break. Suddenly the wall pushed inwardly, then slid over, revealing an office with a desk filled with paperwork. Walking over and sitting down behind the desk, Danzo snapped his fingers, causing a man with a plain white mask to seemingly appear out of thin air with the kanji for "nay" on the top of his mask. Report. Hi Danzo-sama, the man said to the now named Danzo. It has been confirmed that the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi has been set free from the blood prison and has now been confirmed by one of your spy seals that he's back in the village. The man said to the wizened leader of Root. Does anybody else know that he has returned? No Danzo-sama, only the Hokage and a few select others know of his return, the man said with his head bowed. Good, send in Agent J. If we act now, then we may be able to gain the Kyuubi and the container right from under Tsunade's nose. Danzo said, rubbing his chin. Hi Danzo-sama, it shall be done at once. Understanding the dismissal, the Root soldier quickly left in a shunshin, body flicker. Not even a minute later another figure entered the room the same way the last did. You called Danzo-sama, the figure said. Looking closely you could see that the figure was small, with the body of a child. Behind the figure's mask you could see white hair. Yes, it's time for our weapon to be finally taught who his true master is. I want you to find where the Kyuubi container is located, and acquire him for my plans. Danzo commanded. Hi Danzo-sama, we won't disappoint you. The figure said with a monotonous voice. See that you don't. With the unspoken dismissal, the figure disappeared, leaving only a few leaves behind. Soon the Jinchuriki will be mine, and then soon I'll be Hokage, and the Konoha will be the strongest village with no other to dismiss it. Danzo said out loud, not knowing that his plan wouldn't work out how he wanted. Clan District. So this is our new home, not bad for it being unused for over 2 decades, Ryuzetsu said, letting loose a low whistle. Naruto is 19 going on 20, so the Kyuubi attack was around 20 years ago. The reason why was because standing before them was a 2-story tall gate which had spikes around it. The house, which was 3 stories tall from the outside, was colored a dark maroon with black trimmings on the roof. If you looked closely, you would see that the trimmings were seals that would have easily been looked over, thinking them nothing but decorations. No kidding, for 3 people my parents went all out. Well, there's no point just standing outside the gate. The instructions Tsunade had on the key. It says to unlock the gate with blood. Naruto said, looking at the gate before slashing his hand with a kunai he got from Tsunade, letting the blood flow from his hands. Swiping most of the blood in the center of the gate where a spiral was located. Not even 5 seconds later, the gate slowly started to open. Looking beyond the gate, Naruto and Ryuzetsu could see that beyond the gates was a fairly large garden with a walkway leading to the house. Besides the garden, you could also see a koi pond with a small variety of fish. After admiring the view, the couple started to walk towards the front door, still admiring how lively the garden was, while also wondering how the yard wasn't overrun weeds and other things of that nature. Using the key Tsunade gave them to open the door and was surprised the room was dust-free and that the air wasn't stale. Looking around the entrance, they could instantly tell that the room was very well taken care of, even though there was no sign of someone living in their new home. Did Tsunade ever say there were any maids? Ryuzetsu asked as she swiped her finger along a nearby shelf to see if any dust was there. Inspecting, she found that it was dust-free, unsurprisingly. No, she definitely never said anything about there being any staff. Naruto said, opening a random door, finding a well-kept kitchen and a fridge that looked like it was barely used. "Hello, master," came a voice from behind them. Turning around, they found a woman with pale skin in a maid's outfit. For those wondering, it's the same as Graphia's outfit. She had white hair in a Heim-style cut with a porcelain white mask with the Uzumaki sign in the center of its forehead. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" Naruto asked, on guard, ready for anything this strange woman might do. "I'm a maid made by Mistress Kushina to make sure that the clan house was always in proper care. My name is Hoetorozu, White Rose. But you may call me anything you want, master," she said as she went into a deep bow before them. Naruto could only stare at her as he let her words soak in, then, as if just realizing he was staring, I'm sorry, my name is Naruto Uzumaki and this right here is my girlfriend Ryuzetsu," Naruto said as he introduced himself, and Ryuzetsu, who nodded in greeting. "Yes. Lady Kushina was very excited for you to arrive. She used to scream at the top of her lungs that you would be one of the strongest ninjas ever, even better than your father," Hoetorozu said with fondness, even if you couldn't see her facial expressions. "So they did love me," Naruto said in a whisper with his white hair covering his face, but you could still hear the emotion in his voice. Ryuzetsu took his hand in hers, squeezing it to show emotional support, not saying anything. Naruto turned towards her as he smiled while squeezing it back in return, showing that he was okay. "So what other rooms does this house have?" Naruto asked Hoetorozu, since she clearly knows more about the compound than them. "Well, the Uzumaki compound has around 25 rooms. Not including the master bedroom. Each room has their own bathroom with a tub and shower. The master bedroom has an onsen though, which can fit more than 12 people comfortable and still have extra room. In the basement is where the mistress kept the Uzumaki library and where your father stored some of his most well-known Fuinjutsu scrolls as well as his own personally made jutsu. The training room and seal room are right next to each other below the basement, so that way there was no chance of anyone seeing any of their original jutsu, and to test seals and see how they can be improved." After bowing to the couple, Hoetorozu gestured for them to follow her. She started off by showing them the basement where the library was located. When they got there, they could only stare in shock at the sheer size of the room filled with unseen knowledge. But before they could start exploring the library, the maid gestured for them to follow her. She brought them to a barren wall with the Uzumaki swirl. "Naruto-sama, place a bit of your blood on the swirl right here," the maid said, gesturing to the swirl. Walking forward, Naruto bit the tip of his thumb, letting some blood gather before his thumb healed over. Swiping his thumb on the swirl, it caused the swirl to glow for a second. Suddenly the wall receded, showing stairs that spiraled down. "Whoa!" both Ryuzetsu and Naruto said at the same time. The maid once again gestured for them to follow her down. Not wasting time, they followed her. As they started going down, torches that they had missed started to light their path. It took around 2 minutes to get to the bottom. When they reached the bottom, they found 2 doors. The first room was about as big as half of Konoha. "Damn!" was all Naruto could say, while Ryuzetsu could only look stunned at the sheer size. "This here is the training room your parents used to practice in. I bet you're wondering how this is possible." Shaking their heads up and down in agreement, still too stunned to say much else. "It's created with the combined knowledge of Uzumaki and Minato-sama's seals, creating an expansion seal that caused the room to look like what it is now. The room had its own flora and fauna. It even had a river, and when they looked up they could see a bright ball of light like the sun hung in the air." "How is all this possible?" Ryuzetsu asked, gesturing to the sun, the trees and the river. "The room has a special seal that allows for it to show the sky's position, including the sun's. Another seal allows for the actual sun's rays to be felt. There is an underground river that leads through the room, allowing for the growth of life you see," she said with her hand gesturing towards an apple tree. "Now follow me to the other room," gesturing towards the other door. Waiting for everyone to exit out, Hoetorozu closed the door and opened the door right near the other room, where they found a room that was big but nowhere near the size of the training room. It had a shelf to the far right filled with scrolls, and in the center was a desk with unfinished scrolls thrown haphazardly on it. On the left side, there were 12 training dummies lined up in a zigzag pattern. After that, Hoetorozu gave them a tour of the rest of the house, including the bathroom and the master bathroom, which had an onsen and was as big as Konoha's outdoor bath. Naruto's sweat dropped at Ryuzetsu as he saw that she had stars in her eyes and was drooling, making a note in his head on what to do if he pisses her off. By the end of the tour, it was time for dinner, which they were served ramen. After Naruto looked at her questioningly. It was master and mistress's favorite food when they were around. After hearing this, Naruto had a small smile on his face, causing him and Ryuzetsu to dig in. After 2 bowls for Ryuzetsu and 13 for Naruto, they both headed to bed. Unknown to them, there was a small white-haired figure outside with a slightly insane smile on her face. "We won't disappoint, mommy."
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.